Are you ready?
Starting now?
Well, now you just messed it up, you knob. God, you know that the shit that we go through for this, huh?
I know. Fuckers better appreciate it. What's the title of this podcast again?
I don't know. Objects, I don't know. Something with a penis, I guess.
Right.
Right. Popular with the ladies.
Right.
Oh, I'm not even going to apologize because hopefully it sounds fucking hilarious.
Yeah, totally. This is fucking explicit now.
The explicit button. Let me use my finger.
La, 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 la.
It is time for another episode of Sober, Not Mature. And that episode starts now. All right, everyone. Welcome once again to another episode of Sober, Not Mature. It is yet another Friday night. Certainly not as beautiful outside as it was last week. But hey, you know what? I still got to be in a good mood, right?
Yep. Do something.
What's that?
Got to do something.
Right. Yeah. And it's one of those things. Well, why should I bother with my life if I'm being in a bad mood all the time? So.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, it's I always look forward to this though. So this is one of my fun times. But man, I eat too much pizza, so I'm a little full. so if I happen to like let out a big burp or something like that, I'll try not to. But yeah, just a tad bit full. So
So you're saying you overindulged?
Imagine that, right? Well, yeah, and what's funny is that when and I don't think, did we ever talk about how we started doing pizza? I know we talked about the spite, but did we talk about the pizza and the other item that we decided were going to keep us sober?
I don't know if we ever did.
Well, you know what? Why don't you explain that? Give you a chance to I yammer too much, so go ahead.
All right, then. Well, let's see. Well, the pizza thing on Friday night started when we were in C Dorm at the Ed Keating Center, the place where we got sober. When you move down into C Dorm, it's when you go 3/4 and you get a job. So we had a couple of bucks in our pocket. And at the end of the week, we celebrated our massive earnings by going and getting a $5 Little Caesars hot and ready pizza. And and we started doing that, and we continued to do that. We moved to the 3/4 house, and we continued to get pizza after our meeting on Friday night. And we've separated and gone our ways in the world, but to this day, pretty much consistently, we have gotten a pizza at the end of our week. My schedule has certainly changed several times over the years, but at the end of my work week, I get a pizza every night. And I know you do too, Bill. So
yeah, absolutely. And the funny thing is, it's not that we're opposed to eating anything else on a Friday night, but given our choice, we're going to eat a pizza.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. It keeps us sober. So the three factors, right? Spite being the second. How do you get a drunk to do something? Tell them you can't do it. So tell me I can't stay sober. Fuck you. I will stay sober. And the third factor is started again at the Keating Center, where all of our, I'm going to use air quotes here, good habits started, is making our bed every day. I do not leave the house without making the bed. When I was out on the road and sleeping in a truck 4 nights a week, that bunk in the back was made every day. Nobody ever saw it. It didn't matter to anyone, and it really didn't even matter that much to me, but I did it. That bunk was made every day because that was a habit that I got into, which is kind of what recovery is. It's getting in, changing our habits, getting good habits, replacing those old bad habits with good ones, and getting pizza and making our beds and being spiteful.
And yeah, that we used to tell people that all the time, and then 9 times out of 10 have to explain it like that. But
Mhm.
yeah, it was those were the three things, and they happened at different times because and I think that the pizza thing, yeah, having a little bit of money in our pocket, but the other thing when we went 3/4, we were still in the dorm area before
Mhm.
we went into the 3/4 house. Basically, when like dinner happened around the Keating Center at probably what 4:30
Yeah,
in the
four.
afternoon.
Right.
Yeah, it was early, so
Yeah.
we were all still at work. But what was supposed to happen is if there were 8 guys that were out working, there was a plate set aside for you, and you can go in the refrigerator when you got home and warm it up. And I do remember that the one time, there's probably a couple of times that we were forced to go get something because you go in there and there's all
Nothing
these
left.
fucking animals ate our dinner.
Yeah. An animal was the word that I was thinking of too.
Yeah. So we just decided, what, the hell with it. We're just going to plan on doing that. And yeah, we did it. Yeah, in the 3/4 house when you and I moved in together, and then when I moved
Mhm.
back to Madison, the place that first of all, when I stayed with my stepsister and her husband, there was a Little Caesars, because that's where we used to go. Little Caesars all the
Right.
time. Sorry, I think you said that, but so their Little Caesars was right around the corner from there. Madison, literally, it was on the street driving into the main like subdivision area where I lived, and then when I
Mhm.
lived in Jefferson, the same thing. It was less than 5 minutes away. But when I moved here, where I am now, the closest Little Caesars is like 20 minutes away. So I'd go to a meeting on Friday night, literally drive 20 minutes up and then 20 minutes back. It was like from the time I left the meeting, it was a good 40 minutes till I got home. And the
Mhm.
only reason I stopped going to Little Caesars is because the one I went to, they just started making the pizzas just shitty. It was just
Right.
so. Now the other one I go to, and I just order through their app, and I think you said you started going to Domino's also, and it just it's the same thing. It's just cheap pizza, but I don't care.
Right. Right.
I love a good pizza, but I'm not going to spend $20 a week. I'm also cheap.
Right.
So if I'm going to spend $20, I'm going to go get like a steak or something like that, or a really good hamburger.
Absolutely.
I don't think you can get a good steak for $20. So let's go with the good hamburger instead.
Yeah, we'll go with that. The ground up steak.
Right. Yeah, it's still steak, just ground up. But yeah, because I just thought about that. I didn't think we ever talked about that. So that's cool. Now,
Yeah.
I'll give you the stats real quick, and kind of the same situation as always. Nothing really changed a lot except for the followers of plays, and we have a new like top episode. But we're
Hmm.
actually from last week on Instagram. We're up 83 followers. So we have 785 followers now on Instagram.
Damn.
Yeah. We're in the number of individual plays on the podcast. It's up 77 plays this week, so now we're up to 575. Top episode number 4 is now the second most popular. Episode number 10, which was our absolutes episode, now that's number 1 at 58. Number 4, episode number 4 is 55. And then episode 3, Still Your Story, is at 54. And then episode 12 from last week is at 34 plays. And I checked all of this probably about 10, 15 minutes ago. But
Right.
as I've been doing over the last couple of weeks, I got on Instagram earlier. We were at like 400 and I don't know, like 69. And basically I begged if we could get 41 more plays to hit 600 plays. But yeah, it didn't happen. It went up 6. So.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
basically what you're saying is our top episode is the one with the picture of the vodka bottle.
It is. Yeah.
All right. Goddamn drunks.
Yeah, and maybe hopefully the Jennifer Aniston one. Maybe I don't know. You think she'd draw a crowd? Maybe we still have 28% are men, 65 women, but women that I talk to, they dig Jennifer Aniston, so maybe that'll pull some in too. I don't know. But yeah, so yeah, all in all, like I said, it's things are. So here's the thing: I was talking to the individual that I talked to in California, and she had asked me just a question about something that she's getting involved in. It was kind of funny. She had messaged me and because I message her quite a bit and ask her questions about this sort of thing, and she's helped me try to set up some of these things that we're doing, and I ask her opinion on a lot of things. So
Sure.
she opens up the message, I think it was yesterday, and she's like, okay, now it's my turn. so
Right.
so she asked me this question, and then I don't know, we started talking about followers and this and that and what her goal is. She's got a goal to hit like 10,000 followers by the end of summer. And she's on track to do it. And I told her, I'm like, it just blows my mind. I said, I'm happier than hell with what we've got, coming up on 800. But, she
Right.
said something I thought was kind of nice. And she goes, first of all, she goes, you guys have been only doing this for a few months, which is
Mhm.
true. And she said, on top of that, she said, you seem to have a very authentic following base or an authentic base of people. And I thought, that's kind of cool because I read about a lot of things, and I think you and I were talking about it. I think when you were here, I don't think we talked about it on an episode, but I do know that there's ways where you can, whether it's buy or rig the system to get all these different followers. And both you and I
Sure.
said, nah, we're like, no, we don't want to do that.
Right.
So if it takes, if we never hit 1,000, or if it takes us never to hit, 10,000, whatever that number is, as long as we're growing and we're doing, naturally, organically. And I like that, how she said that, an authentic base. And the people that I've interacted with on Instagram, I think that's a great way to put it, because there just seems to be a really good, solid group of people. And, more people are actually the things that are being posted lately. And I'll say we, but I mean, everyone knows, I think, and I'm including you in this because your name's on this too. Well,
Mhm.
we're involved in this, but of course I'm the one posting it, but it doesn't matter. I mean, so that's why if I say me, I apologize. But
Yeah.
so all these different things that I'm posting on there, we're starting to get more reactions. Just if nothing else, likes. Every once in a while, people are commenting, and so we're getting more of the interaction part, which is cool, because I go back to everything in the beginning. My first goal with the other name, or the other username I set up, was
Mhm.
just to interact with more sober people. And obviously now we're doing this, but we're still getting that. We're actually starting to get more of that interaction, and to me, that's cool. And having that following. Oh, one thing I was going to mention last week, and I completely forgot, but there is still a comment area at the end of every single one of our episodes on the website. Okay, so if anyone has any comments, and I put this on Instagram the other day, keep it positive. If you don't like what we're doing, and I put this on Instagram, don't waste your time, because
Right.
if you don't like what we're doing, we don't care.
Nope.
and that's the truth. You're not going to hurt our feelings. You're not
Mm-mm.
going to make us change what we're doing.
Nope.
But if somebody has a positive thing that says, hey, this is what you can do to help build your audience, to help it, this is what we want to hear, this is what we want you guys to get into, bring it on. That's what we're looking for. And I'm starting to add it at the end of each episode, so it also, there's a Q&A section on Spotify, which still seems to be the main way that people are listening. I think it's like
Mhm.
close to 50% of the plays are on Spotify. So
Mhm.
I can add this Q&A at the end of the Anchor episode, and shows up on Spotify. And basically all I've done is saying, hey, what do you want us to talk about? Give us some suggestions. So there's two different places, and we do welcome, again, the positive comments. Help us grow. Give us we can take constructive criticism, but like I said, if it's negative, just don't waste your time. It's just not, it's unimportant to us.
The trolls are not welcome.
Well, and maybe let me take that back. If you want to talk stupid on there, just be prepared to be slammed on this.
Right.
So feel free. I just thought about that again. That was it. Let me step back. Go ahead. Say something. We're going to have fun with it. I don't care. I don't care one way or the other. But yeah, so like I said, I just thought that was kind of cool what you said. I hadn't thought about it that way, but yeah, just being an authentic, type of following. So I had a couple of ideas, and I didn't actually get any individual suggestions, but little things popped up once again from just things in my head, things we haven't talked about, things that were brought up that we didn't get to. But the first one that I was thinking about, and I don't know, I was thinking about the house father thing, and people telling us that we weren't going to stay sober if we were house fathers. There was one other item that was kind of along those lines. Do you remember the presentation that everyone was supposed to do before they went three-quarter? Do you remember that?
We were like supposed to do a biography, sort of a mini lead, right?
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
you never did yours, right?
No, they got. God, you know what? That was a long time ago. I don't remember. I kind of think I might have.
Really? I didn't. I know.
Really?
Yeah, because there was, and I remember there was all these different things. All of us went, well, like Michael, I remember Michael did his, and I couldn't remember if you did. I know I didn't, and I don't remember why, but it's like either there was a number of people ran out of time or whatever, but that was one of the things where people are like, oh, if you don't do that, you're not going to stay sober. That's an important part of the process. And I'm like, they ran out of time. I'm like, I didn't refuse it,
Right.
but so for that, I didn't know if you remembered that, but yeah, it popped into my head. But I didn't do mine. If you did, and again, I couldn't remember if you did or not, but
Yeah,
but that
I think I did. I think I did.
okay. So, well, you got one up on me, but apparently, I don't know, 2 different paths. It still worked for me, I guess.
Yeah.
Now,
That's
the
just
other
an
thing,
example. There's lots of ways to do this.
right? And you know what? I would have been more than happy to. I talk a lot now. I mean, I know I wouldn't have been as far as having a shortage of words or anything like that. So that wouldn't have been a problem.
No, it would not.
But the other thing too is, and I think it was either in, I can't remember if it was in Tom's group, and I was thinking about my the notes I had in my big book. So either Tom's group or Tony, or it could have even been Dan, one of the groups. But either way, we were supposed to make a plan of what we would do once we kind of get out on our own. Because three-quarter, I mean, you got, again, a lot of freedom, and it was
Right.
like a do's and don'ts type of thing. And then we were also told to involve basically almost like accountability people.
Mm-hmm.
Did you do that, or do you remember that at all?
That I don't remember. So I'm
Okay.
going to go ahead and say I didn't do it.
Okay, so I did and you didn't. So there we go. Look at that. We just evened out. So in the thing of it was, and I remember, I'm trying to think, and man, I should just, I'm going to talk about the accountability part and try to dig this out of my big book. But because I think it's one of my notes in here. But so the accountability part was basically picking out people that you were going to be around on a regular basis, and basically kind of like giving them a list of things that to watch for, things that if you are doing this, that's a problem, or if you aren't doing this, that's a problem. So the people that I was around the most were Mom and Kathy, and then Johnny. And I remember talking to all of them, but I don't remember. It was an actual printed sheet that we had to fill out and sign. It was like a plan. That's why, I mean, if you didn't do it, I mean, I don't remember why it was given to me or when it was given to me, but I just found the note out of my big book. So, oh, there it is. It says right on the back, it says, write down a plan for when you get out, good and bad, pros and cons for Tom's. Yeah, it was Tom's group. It was a Tuesday afternoon group. So what I wrote down, and I did like a pros and cons column. That seems to be my thing, apparently. So the do's are stay active and keep the same structure. And then the don'ts were don't stop praying, don't stop meetings, don't forget God or higher power, and don't lose the fellowship. So as I'm looking at this, and this is literally, 12 years later, I mean, almost, because you figure in in a few months, this would have been written 12 years ago. Now, granted, I don't go to like the physical type of meetings that much anymore. When I'm in Cleveland, I would go. If I was in Cleveland all the time, I'd probably go to more, just because I enjoy those people and I enjoy the groups more. But everything else I still do. I still pray. I still have a higher power. I lean on the fellowship. I try to stay active as I can, and I have kept the structure part of it. We were just talking about that with the pizza stuff, and I know little things like that seem stupid, but it's just one of the. It's funny over the years. Not even just family members, but I've had friends or people that I've hung out with, that have texted me on a Friday night and they're like, "Hey, I'm not interrupting your pizza, am I?"
Right. Yeah. People know what we're doing. They know. Yeah, exactly. That's kind of the point of the accountability, right. I mean, this is great. That making the bed. I was out working. I was out in by Youngstown, and I'd gone into this warehouse. I've only actually been there once, and it was a live unload, which is when it doesn't happen often, but occasionally I have to sit there while they empty the trailer out. And the guy that came out with the paperwork was apparently a guy that was at the Keating Center. I didn't remember him, but he walked up to the truck and he looked at me and he said, "Is that bunk made back there?" So he remembered. Yeah. So I mean, out of the blue, people know what I do, talk about walking the walk. I don't just talk the talk. These are the things that I do. I will tell you what I do. You can count on the fact that I've done those things. That's definitely something that was not true 12 and a half years ago.
Right. Yeah. And I just thought, and I remembered the do's and don'ts, but I didn't read it all. I remember seeing that note in there when I was going through the notes in my big book a couple of weeks ago, but I didn't read it. And when I was just reading it right now, I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, well, gold star, gold star, gold star. Oh, no, this just reminded me of something else. I was on the gold star thing. I was on a webinar. Well, it's a demo for a vendor product that we're looking at using. So it was me and the owner of our company, and then our operations manager. I think it was Monday when we were doing it. So going through this stuff, and this guy's giving us all this information. It's a lot. It's a program that's going to help us out. Just technology doing our business better. But I understood majority what he was talking about, but he was getting a little bit into geek land. So more into the how things are programmed and using different things. And then finally, he's like, any questions? I'm like, here's my main question, whatever it was. And he's like, that's a great question. He goes, I'm glad you asked that. He says, gold star for you. And then we kept talking. And then Carrie, who's our operations manager, asked a question. He's like, ooh, you get a gold star. So she says, she's like, so what do we get for these gold stars? And remember, we're on a webinar. This dude's in Texas, I think, is where their company is. But and he's like, well, he says he said 3 gold stars. He goes, you get margaritas. And I'm like, oh, here we go.
Yeah. Right.
And then he's like, if you get 4 gold stars, he said, whatever the rep is, Dave, is going to send you the bottle of your favorite booze. And she's just like, all right, yeah. And I'm in my head, I'm like, oh,
yeah.
But the thing of it is, and the reason and I don't care. I mean, even if I want, I'm like, I don't need your fucking booze. Keep your booze, whatever. Right. But the thing, it's just how our culture is, how the business culture is, and stuff like that. And this guy doesn't know us from anyone. He's never talked to us before. And it's just like, I'm going to give you alcohol, but that's what people do,
Yeah.
So again, that was just when I said gold star, it just reminded me of that. But yeah, the structure part of it, and and like you said, people knowing what we do, and I know for a fact it's happened. God, at least a handful of times when you and I are together, and either it's when we used to do group on those Saturday mornings when I'd be in town, and we'd walk in, and then there's somebody. It's like, oh, we see a familiar face. Or like, hey, you guys are still sober? Yeah, and actually continuously too. God damn, really?
Well,
yeah. Which is fun. But in a lot of times, we see those guys, and we're like, we didn't do anything special. We went through literally the same thing that you did, and we followed the same steps. We had the same guy, being Marty, telling us what to do. We clean the same shit 17,000 times a day. We ate the same chicken. That's the other thing too, that it just, again, little side note here. We had, I don't even know, how many different ways they figured out, to give us chicken. I mean, you get chicken from everywhere. It was
Right.
every time. And it wasn't bad because Marty said when we first got there, and I think I weighed, I think I weighed like 160 pounds or something like that when I came in there, and I think I gained 15 pounds in the first 30 days. And probably by the time we got out of there, I gained, 20 pounds, total or whatever. But it
Right.
was meat, it was potatoes. We had cookies. We had all this different stuff.
Mhm.
But chicken, we told Marty, I don't know how many times we're like, hey, you got, I asked him one time, I'm like, you're still doing the chicken thing. He's like, nah, we do different things. I'm like, what? I said,
Oh yeah.
like, do you understand how many people you kept sober with that chicken? Maybe it was the chicken that was magic.
Right.
Like, what's wrong with you, Marty? But yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, all the different things that we do, and I didn't even think about it anymore. But seriously, it just kind of blew my mind when I was just reading that list because everything's on there. And granted, the meetings part of it changed because of the pandemic, and then, I
Sure.
eased into a different direction. But it's that whole staying connected thing. And man, I mean, we said it before in other episodes, but the people that led us, the people that taught us, and the things we learned at that time, I mean, there's no way I mean, saying they're invaluable is even not enough. I mean, there's no way we can
Right.
put any word on things that we were given so freely, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Word that comes to mind for me is fundamental.
Right.
This is what you do. You want what we have. You want to stay sober. Do this. It's that simple. And don't stop. And
Right.
and that's just it. Yeah. Pray, go to meetings, help another drunk. That was drilled into our heads over and over and over and over again. And it's true. You do those things. I mean, we talked about guys that would go out and if they were lucky enough to come back, I mean, my first year, I asked them, I said, hey, man, what happened? And the simple answer, and they never gave a simple answer, but the simple answer was always, I stopped. I stopped going to meetings. I stopped praying. I stopped doing what I was supposed to do. I stopped helping other people, And so I went, well, all right, then I guess I can't stop. And I haven't.
Well, I think that I think I talked about that part briefly, but you had to teach me that lesson. So, and that was, it's kind of funny that you brought that up, and that's one of the things that I actually wrote down. And again, I have no idea why it crossed my mind, but the thing that I wrote down was, were there any items that you had to get over to kind of break through that, I don't know, that barrier between I don't know if I'm ready for this, I'm all in to get sober. And that the story that I'll tell in a minute, but that story is one of them for me. But did you have anything like that when you came in? Like I don't know, a demon is a bad way to put it, maybe, but these things that were weighting you down that you had to work through and then be able to move forward.
You know what? When I came in, man, I was done. I was so beat up and so broken. And I wanted what these people had. So I started to do what they did. And, it didn't matter if it made sense to me. It didn't matter if I understood it, if I believed in it. Didn't matter. I just took the action and did what they did. And what do you know? It worked. Yeah.
So, and you know what? And again, I've said it before, and it talks about the whole AAI, concept is sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. And I know I've said it before that every single thing, and it's basically been since I've got sober, I've realized that not only my recovery and me gaining things, and the story with my daughter is just one, glaring example, of that. But it's literally everything, and it's fine because I don't mind now, but I did in the beginning because none of this stuff was making sense to me, and I couldn't grasp onto certain things. And there was two things, and what you just talked about was the number one. And there was and we were at the 3/4 house, and I remember standing in the hallway by the bathroom, and you were standing at the doorway of our bedroom, and it was the same thing. It was, all these people kept going back out. Every time somebody relapsed, I mean, seriously, just the same way you did, but I wasn't catching on. I'm like, okay, again, it was a Tuesday. The guy got a flat tire. He was by a liquor store. Don't do that. Or it was a
Right.
Wednesday and a family member just passed away, or his ex had, shit on him, or whatever the case is. So I'm looking for the why behind it. And I remember just being, and it was, these two things happened at 9 months sober, and which was kind of weird, but they did. And I remember I was going out of my mind because I couldn't figure out, what the deal was. And I remember, again, standing by a bathroom, you're standing in the door to our bedroom. And I said, can it really be that simple? I said, we're told, obviously don't drink, but then pray, go to meetings, help another alcoholic. I'm like, could it be that simple? And I'm freaking out. And you just said,
yes.
And you walked away.
Yep.
and and I brought this up a couple of times in episodes. That's one of the things that Mike does. He'll give me 1 or 2 word answers like enjoy the freedom, and that sort of thing. But seriously, so this is, and I hope everyone understands how critical this is, because he and I joke about the 4 days here and there, but he and I we're at the same level, the same amount of sobriety, and the same point, living the same life, literally every single day up to that point. And he understood this and I didn't. But what it took is my friend Mike, again, just saying the word yes, and it clicked. Okay. Now there was still one more thing, and I don't think I talked about this ever, but my dad died 33 days before I went into detox. And basically I had a problem already. I was already a full-blown alcoholic, and I talked about this in my story, but that last 33 days was a mess. But when he died, I went out to Ohio and I drank the entire time. I blacked out on the way to his funeral. There's certain points I don't remember. And I was loaded at my dad's funeral, and he was a member of this program. He had 29 years of sobriety, and I was drunk at his funeral. So that took me a bit, that weighed on me, even though I tried to talk through it after I got sober, and family members are like, it's okay. And I'm like, no, it's not. It doesn't feel okay. They're like, you didn't make a fool out of yourself. I'm like, it doesn't matter. It just doesn't feel okay. Right. So I was at a meeting, the Sahara Club. Okay. I almost couldn't remember the name, but I was coming back from, so I worked in Rocky River. We lived in, at the 3-quarter house, whatever, Brook Park, Brooklyn. There you go. So on the way home on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, whatever it was, they had this monstrous big open area. And no kidding, it was a discussion meeting, but it had like at least 75 people, if not more, every week.
Right.
Very busy meeting. So I'd go there and I'd listen, and a lot of times I wouldn't have a chance to say anything, but it was okay. So this time they're talking about forgiveness, and either whether the conversation with you happened right before or right after, it was in the same time, and I swear it had to have been within a week or two of each other, but they're talking about forgiveness and all this different stuff, and forgiving yourself and people forgiving you, and you forgiving yourself helps other people forgive you. And I'm driving home, and again it clicked. And I'm like, wow. So I'm thinking, okay, so me being drunk at my dad's funeral, again, from a sober individual, a sober individual's funeral was not good, at all. But if there was, and even though my dad would not have condoned it, if there was anyone that would have understood why I was that way, it would have been him. And that cleared it up.
Yeah. Another alcoholic.
Yeah. But it took, that was at 9 months for me. And that's why what I've said before, I was inadvertently, and I didn't know I was going through the motions for these first 9 months, but those two things got, one got clicked for me. Thank you very much. But the other one clicked because of a meeting, and those two items. And I say this to this day, I don't know, everything that I've heard, if nothing else, tells me that if I wouldn't have resolved those issues, it probably would have not been good.
Right.
I don't know if that means I would have drank again, or maybe 12 years later I'd be sober, but fucking miserable.
Exactly.
So either one of those I don't want. I didn't want to drink again, and I didn't want to be miserable, even though those thoughts weren't in my mind. When I look at that now, just those two items. And again, I think about these people in these places, in these the situations we were put in. We didn't choose. I didn't choose. I chose to go to the meeting,
Sure.
but I didn't choose to hear that. I didn't walk up to you and say, Mike solved my problem, and
Right.
just, and who says that? Why did it click that day? I don't know. Like you said, you just said how you said it got drilled into us time after time after time.
Yeah.
and I'm just going, oh, I can't understand this.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, again, takes time, right? That goes back to my whole point was none of this stuff happened for me. I didn't have the flashes or the the overwhelming feelings. I had none of that. So, but hey, man, I'm still here. So,
Mhm.
but yeah, so that's what I thought about. But here's the other thing, and it reminded me of you said it a few minutes ago, but then it was another thing that I wrote down because you said, and I can't now remember what you were talking about a few minutes ago, but you said 12 and a half years ago, it wouldn't have been the same thing. Ooh, making your bed. So
Right.
12 and a half years ago would have been about 30 days or more
Mhm.
than that. But
Right.
describe how you were, how you felt.
Mhm.
We know your story, but even let's say the last 30 days, what was that like for you?
It was, well, I don't even know if and actually my daughter listened to my episode, my story, and she brought this up to me that I had left out about, well, let's see, I got sober end of April. I white knuckled it for a couple of weeks, right around the middle of beginning to the middle of March, because I had, I'd been drinking really hard, and I tried on my own to not drink, and so I did. I went a couple of weeks dry, and then I started going back to work, and I didn't have a defense, so I had to drink again. And those last couple of weeks, maybe 3 weeks were just, I mean, I was completely drunk the entire time. Yeah, it was miserable. I couldn't stop. I couldn't stop. Even like I said, I tried a couple of weeks before I got sober, a month before I got sober, to stop drinking, and I couldn't. It was horrible. And those couple of weeks where I was dry were just as miserable, if not more miserable, than when I was drinking, because it was awful. I
Right.
needed to drink, and I couldn't, and I didn't, and then I did again. Yeah, it was just powerlessness, man. I had absolutely no power. Not that I do today, but I we talk about the drinking dreams and the using dreams. I had powerless dreams last night. I was having dreams. Yeah, it was, I was trying to control things that I couldn't control. Had nothing, yeah, seriously. Oh, I had an awful night's sleep last night. And it was family stuff, and it was just stupid, and I woke up, and it was worse than a drinking dream. It was horrible. I was trying to control things I couldn't control. And I woke up and I went, well, that was awful. I don't think I'll do that in real life today. And I didn't. Yeah, powerlessness, man. And that's why, you can call it God, you can call it whatever you want, a power greater than yourself. We need to lean on that in this that's what the part of the program teaches us, and you hear God a lot, and that's fine. This atheist doesn't care anymore one way or another. I don't fight it anymore, but yeah, I don't have the power. I'm powerless. First step, the only step we have to do perfectly. And my life is unmanageable. And guess what? My life is still unmanageable. I don't manage it. I let this program, I let the absolutes, I let the steps, all that stuff, making my bed in the morning, reading my meditation books, getting pizza on Friday night. That's what manages my life. That's what manages my life, man. And, I, 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 and Yeah, it was just a great lesson. I tossed and turned, and last night was awful, but I got to wake up this morning and go, yeah, I'm not going to do that today.
you know, and that's the only reason I laughed is because I mean, it's something that I mean, I know you,
Mm-hmm.
you feel very strongly about all that stuff, and then you and I had actually we talked about these things on these episodes, and then to
Mm-hmm.
have this haunting dream about it, that's
Yeah.
okay. So let me ask you this question: did you ever think that you'd say, "God, I'd rather have a drinking dream"?
Yeah. Well, and the worst part is I don't ever get drunk in my dreams. I don't ever get high in my dreams anymore. My quote unquote using dreams are always about me trying to hide it. I never get to have fun. It's trying to lie to people and hide it. Those are my using dreams today. So yeah, when I have these bad dreams, there's no monsters. It's just me. I'm the monster. And then I wake up and in real life, I try not to be that monster again today. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And it's funny when you just said that you don't get drunk or high in the dream. So we
Mm-hmm.
were at we were at the Keating Center doing group the one time, and it was right before I went out there. And I remember that we were 7 years sober, and I don't know why I remember that, but I remember saying that it took me this long to have this come up in a dream, which means maybe I'm just learning this thing. So I had just had a drinking dream before I came out to Ohio. And the thing of it is for me, the first one I ever had was very, very new. It was in the Keating Center right away, and it was blurry, and it was like being in, like you see on TV when somebody's loaded, and they're just walking around, and it's just this psychedelic blur,
Mm-hmm.
almost like you're walking through I don't know, like a car wash or something.
Yeah.
It's just a blur. And what's happened over the years is they've gotten more clear and more vivid, and I remember them. So that's
Mm-hmm.
that's the other thing that's weird, but they're far more vivid, and I remember things that happened in them. But I never thought about that. That I don't. I've never gotten drunk. It's just either about to take a drink or did take a drink or
Mm-hmm.
that sort of thing. But the last one not last one, but this one I remembered. It was again. Something happened, and whatever it was, I was going to drink or was drinking, and the only thing that I remember in the dream, and I was standing in a room, and clear as day, Mom was standing on the other side of the room, and
Mm-hmm.
I had drank or was about to drink or whatever it was, and she was standing there with her arms crossed and just kind of shaking her head at me in disappointment, you know.
Right.
So when I woke up, I'm like, "Fuck me," because that's what we talk about. We don't talk about I don't want to drink because I don't want to drink and I don't want to die. Maybe we talk about those things, but
Yeah.
we think beyond that. We play that tape through to how we could hurt people, and that
Mm-hmm.
even goes back to the funerals that we went to when we first got in the Keating Center, seeing the hurt and the pain on
Right.
these families' faces, and realizing that it's not just what I'm going to do to me, but I think about that. And my mom, I don't want to disappoint anybody. I sure don't want to disappoint our mom,
Mm-hmm.
But I remember talking about that in that group and saying, man, it took me 7 years to have a dream like that to maybe, finally realize that I may disappoint somebody. Now, I think I understood that beforehand, but maybe it wasn't as crystal clear as it became after I had that dream. But,
Mm-hmm.
and like I said, I mean, that was 5 years ago.
Right.
And I remember that, like what I just said when I was about to start this, and I said 7. I'm like, damn, that was 7 years. Wow. Because it feels like you and I were sitting in that group room like last weekend. That's
Sure.
how, again, how I guess how vivid that memory is just of talking about that in group. But man, that's the powerless dream. That's cool to me because that takes it to well, it is. It's funny, but it takes it to a whole new level. Is that I mean, that's like some life shit,
Yeah.
I mean, really. So that's cool. It's actually
Yeah.
very cool.
It's yeah. Again, the point that the big book says alcohol is just a symptom. So what we have is a lack of power. We have a lack of control. That's our problem. Well, that and selfishness and self-centeredness, run wild. Yeah. the alcohol is just a symptom, man. The heroin's just a symptom. The crack's a symptom. Whatever you're putting in yourself is just a symptom, man. We're trying to control things we can't control, and it makes us crazy. And so we got to medicate ourselves so we don't completely lose our minds. It wasn't for me anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
And the thing of it is, and then when I was thinking about the last 30 days for me, number one, I never tried to quit.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I said it before. This is my first run at this. That's unimportant. But we talked to a lot of our friends, and you just gave an example. And I know you went through other things before, where you did, tried to quit, white knuckle, whatever we want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think I'm unique. I know there's other people out there that have done it, but it blows my mind sometimes when I think back and the insanity and the delusional thinking of the closest I got to admitting anything was realizing that someday I'm going to have to, mend my evil ways. I'm going to have to calm down a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's no joke, no lie. That was the closest I ever got to it. But I do remember my dad got sober when he was 36. I didn't get sober till I was 41,
Right.
So figure obviously 5-year difference in age. But I do remember when I turned 36, maybe just what I said a minute ago is wrong, because I do remember being 36 and saying, I'm not that bad. And that's a weird thought to have had when, for not thinking. And that just seriously, I just figured it out now. So, hey, for everyone out there, you just saw how my process works. That a light bulb just went on. So, forget everything I just said a couple of minutes ago. Apparently, I did think that I had a problem, but wow, that was kind of weird. But I never did anything about it. I never tried to quit. Right. I never tried to. The only thing is that in another question I had on here, and I think I know your answer, but because you answered it I think a few weeks ago, but it goes back to my thought, and I talked about it leads and after I got sober. I know for one thing, I never drank normally. That's number one, and I don't know when I crossed the line into drinking alcoholically, because that was a question that I had. Do you remember, even could you pinpoint any point when you started either thinking that you were drinking too much or drinking alcoholically?
I always did. I mean, I pretty much, hell, I joked about it when I was 15 and 16 years old. Yeah, I'm an alcoholic, man.
Really?
Yeah, I knew. I always knew. I did. Yeah. I would, and I didn't care. I didn't care. Yeah, this is what I am. I drink to excess. Fuck you. That's even when I was homeless, even when I didn't care. I did not care. I knew what I was, and this is what I am. And actually, there were points in my life where I used it as an excuse. Well, I'm an alcoholic. What do you expect from me?
That's fucking
that's
perfect.
Fucked up. That's what it is. It's fucked up. What do you want from me, honey? I'm an alcoholic. This is what I do.
And honestly, the only reason I'm laughing a little bit is I had uncomfortable conversations with my son's mom about that every once in a while, because when we first got together, and once again, and I'll say this, and if she ever listens to this, I know my son was going to dip into this here and there, so if she ever listens to this, and I'll say it again, you were not the problem, I was.
Right.
I think she knows that, but I'm just going to say
I'm pretty sure she knows it.
I know, but I bring her up in stories, and I just want to know that I was the problem. This has nothing to do with you, but you were part of the story. So that's that part. But even though when we first got together, we used to go out all the time. We go to bars, we go dancing, we go to clubs, we do all this different stuff. We had just a phenomenally good time. But here's the thing, and I know I've said this before. I don't know if on here, but she knew when the party was over. I didn't, and she knew when to stop. I didn't, and that was the it's the difference between a normie and a
Mhm.
alcoholic. So, when we first got together, again, I come home from work, I crack a beer, I drink some beers, we'd be drinking beers and playing cards. And then we kept doing that for a while, but then, when we've been together and, then she got pregnant and we got married, and I continued to do that. And she brought it up a couple of times, and she's
Right.
like, it finally got to the point where, she's saying that, why do you continue to drink throughout the night? If you want to have a beer, maybe two, but she's like, you're drinking from here until then. So then in my head, I'm like, well, then I'll just hide it.
Yep.
So that goes
That'll
down that
solve the
whole,
problem.
well, yeah,
I just
for
won't
a
tell you.
minute. But I remember saying to her, I'm like, I've done this ever since we met. Why is this such a problem? But
Right.
I remember saying that to her. So that's all on the same lines. I didn't say I'm an alcoholic, but basically I did, so, yeah, just kind of funny, again, different words. That's, just slicing things up a little bit different, but yeah, we kind of said the same thing, but I never would have admitted that. I would have never said the words alcoholic. And when we first went into the Keating Center, or when I got there, and again, I talk about that first meeting and that meditation, and when we go around the room and start to talk, we had to introduce ourselves that way.
Mhm.
So day one, which was day 7, I think, that I was sober,
Right.
I had to say, my name is Bill and I'm an alcoholic. And the first time that came out of my mouth, I only said it because I was supposed to. That's a fact. And that makes me think about it. And I remember talking about this in meetings and stuff like that. And the difference between, there's admitting, or there's saying, and then there's really accepting. And I think it might have been at that 9-month mark that I became part of. We were talking about our 5th step and all those sort of things, and agreed at that point. We both agree that we became part of, but I think that I dug in at that moment once those 2 items, the conversation with you and then the whole forgiveness thing. But I think that's when I started to accept the fact. And there's a different story with admitting, just saying, yeah, okay, got me, arms up in the air, I'm an alcoholic.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
But then finally accepting it and saying, okay, now I got to do something about this, So I never would have said it when I'm sure. I mean, I said it for months and didn't necessarily mean it. But
Right.
So you would also mention the first step before, the one we have to do perfectly. So
Right.
this came up more so here, I think, in meetings that I went to, where certain people think there's 2 parts to it. Certain people think it's just one full statement. What's your opinion?
Oh, absolutely 2 parts. Yeah,
Okay.
for me. Yeah, powerless over the substance, powerless over people, places, and things. I have no power. And, that's a separate thing from my life is unmanageable. That's another issue. My life is unmanageable. I need something to manage my life. I can't do it. I never could. I never will. Not me, This, like I said, the program, the steps, the absolutes, the principles, all of this stuff that is not me. It never was. I was a little kid, lied, cheating, and thieving, stealing stuff when I was 4 years old, long before I picked up any substance. I was not a good person. I need these principles to guide me. And if I allow them to do that, I realize I'm powerless, and I allow these things to guide me and to shape my life. I become a better person, and the people around me don't have to suffer anymore. You were talking about, your wife, your ex-wife. I want to put this. Yeah, well, no, it's kind of important. I want to say it right. We affect other people. It's the big lie that we tell ourselves, and we thoroughly believe this lie, that we're not hurting anybody but ourselves. You know, we believe that, man, down in our hearts. We believe, well, I'm not hurting anybody but me. You know, leave me the fuck alone. Let me do what I got to do, and it's all going to be okay. It's a lie. You know, we hurt other people. We affect other people. Not that we're the center of the universe. It's just the way all this shit's set up. You know, we affect each other. And every time I pick up a drink or a drug, man, I'm hurting somebody else. And I had to accept that fact. And I do, you know, that's why that's one of the big things that keeps me from picking up that drink or drug anymore is I don't want to hurt people. Jim Betting, man, you know,
Right.
God rest his soul, man, or whoever rest his soul. I hope his soul is resting, and I think it is. You know, I just don't want to hurt anybody. And he never came out and said it, but I know he had problems with religion for sure. And maybe even the God thing, but his line was, "I'll do whatever you tell me to do. I will go sell Bibles on the street if it'll stop me from hurting other people." And I love that, man. I hated his groups, but I loved the shit he had to say.
Yeah, and I mean, I agree wholeheartedly because and that's the thing, you know, and that's why I keep saying, you know, like Jim Benny with my arms up, and every time I say it, I put my arms up.
Yeah,
Because he used to do that. He used to do that in group, and then, but yeah, the Bible in the street corner. I just don't want to hurt anyone anymore. And he was also animated. He was an animated guy, you know, just in general. But yeah, I mean, the dude had some wisdom, and he went through some shit too. I mean, he had health issues and all this different stuff.
right.
Just, you know, kept on keeping on, that sort of thing. But like when you and I apologize for laughing when you were trying to say something poignant. I thought
It's difficult for me.
I know, but I thought you were trying to, you know, say something nice about my ex-wife. So I was. That's what it just. That was the first thing that I popped into my head. But you're right. So she and I have had some conversations over the years, and we started to talk about. Now we made our amends, but we made it. I don't know how to best put this. We made an outskirts type of amends because she didn't want to get into detail, and I accepted that, and I figured, okay, the only thing I can do, which is what we were taught, is that living amends, and I know that I've proven myself to her to this day, and I know that because of just how open she's been with me, that I'm allowed in her life and in her husband's life and all those different things. But she's also told me too, basically, you know, keep doing what you're doing or else. So I know that the keep doing what I'm doing means I'm doing something right. I figured that out, you know, but there's been times when we've gotten in conversations over the years and they slide into that deep discussion, and she'll start to tear up. And I mean, this has been even probably in the last, you know, 2-3 years. So not too long ago, you know, so you're talking 10 years sober, 11 years sober, maybe 9 years, whatever the deal is. A lot of time has passed, but she's the one that told me to begin with, I forgive you, but I will never forget what happened. And she told me that very early on, which I mean, all I can do is thank her, you know, and just be grateful that she gave me that opportunity, you know, but yeah, I mean, the whole Jim Benny thing, and it's true. I don't want to see anyone in pain, you know, and the same thing that you just said is that, as long as we keep doing the things that we're doing, at least it's less of an opportunity that we're going to hurt anyone in any way. But if we do, usually we recognize it, and we can fix it, because we're not infallible, you know, but we have the tools to hopefully correct it. And, you know, what do they say? Admit promptly, right?
Yeah.
But
I fucked up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which our egos wouldn't let us do before. You know, I didn't fuck up. You fucked up.
So
my attitude was, you know, well, again, you know, what do you expect from me? You know, you allowed me into your life. What did you think was going to happen? You know, blame them for me being an asshole. Wonderful. What a great way to live.
So that reminds me of all the time. I mean, for a number of years that Dawn and I were together, and Dawn's my ex-wife, but you know, just for everyone else, I know you know, but whatever, anything would happen, I'd always say sorry, 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 sorry. But I,
Mhm.
as we're always told, it's the behavior change, not the sorry. And
Right.
she said something to me at one point, which I'll never forget. She said, you know what? She goes, I'm tired of you saying sorry. And of course, I think you could probably figure out what my answer was. It was like, well, fine, then fuck you. I won't apologize.
Right.
Because that's exactly what you were just talking about. Don't blame me, blame you. But then
Mhm.
the other thing she followed that up with was, she said, sorry is when you spill somebody's milk. She said, sorry is not for the things that you do.
Mhm.
And at the time, again, probably both fingers went up and whatever. But I think
Mhm.
now, and I mean, there are so I very, very grateful for her, and I can't say that enough. These little things, she's almost like a female version of you. These little things that she says to me stick. And I'm not saying that she's kept me sober, but the things that she says have never gone away.
Right.
And I think about that because I do. I care about her as a person, and
Mhm.
I care about how she feels. And at the time, thankfully, when she started saying those things to me, I was receptive enough to listen to it. But the going back to the first step real quick in the two parts, it's funny that I never had anyone look at it anything differently than two parts. There's a period in it too. So
Mhm. Right.
I mean, grammatically it's two parts. But anyhow, so I remember being in, it was Dan's group, Chicken Dan, and he had
Mhm.
said that he goes, you don't have to, he said, powerless over alcohol, my life's is unmanageable. And we were really new, and I just remember him saying that. He goes, you probably don't, you may not, or you don't have to believe that you're powerless over alcohol. He said that will happen in time, but he said,
Mhm.
you're here in the Keating Center, and I'm telling you,
Mhm.
your life is unmanageable. and and at that point, it again, couple of weeks, I would say maybe a couple of weeks sober we were. In my head, I'm just like, okay, I mean,
Right.
so I did. I believed him. So in my prayers every single night,
Mhm.
never, I haven't done drugs or anything like that, but in my prayers in the night and in the morning, I kind of read that part or recite that part, the first step. I always say to myself, I'm powerless over alcohol and drugs, because I know if I
Mhm.
think anything in my body that changes or alters my mood or mind, it's gonna be the same result.
Right.
But I also say, without you, meaning my higher power, my life is unmanageable. And although
Mhm.
you say it differently, because you say your life is not manageable, it's managed by something else. You and I,
Right.
again, we say it differently, but it's the same concept.
Right.
I can my life is managed by a power greater than myself, and if I lose that
Mhm.
thing, then my life then becomes unmanageable again. And
Right.
and I say that twice a day, every single day.
Mhm.
and and it's probably not the only time. There's times when I remind myself, and I'm like, throughout the day when shit's going sideways or somebody's pissing me off,
Mhm.
whatever it is.
Right.
But yeah, it was just kind of funny. I figured you thought the same way about the first step, but there's been a couple of people at the club I used to go to that were really adamant about that. Anytime we talked about the first step, and they would tell these
Mhm.
people, they're like, some people out there think that it's two parts. It's not. These things go together. Then they get around to
Mhm.
me, like, I disagree.
Right.
But and I wouldn't say it that way. I would actually just say, what, I have a different opinion of it, and this is why. But again, it doesn't matter. I mean, as long as, I don't care if you look at it as, however many words are in there. If there's 17 words and it's 17 parts, don't care. You know,
Right.
if you do it perfectly, so they say, that's how we're going to stay sober. And again,
Mhm.
I don't care how you slice it up. I don't give a shit.
Nope. Nope.
So yeah, it was just kind of again, different opinions, but I still think in it. One of the reasons that, like I said before, about, not that I have an issue with meetings around here, because it'll be in another episode, but I want to talk about it maybe next time, the difference in the type of meetings I went to there and the type of meetings I went here, and what
Mhm.
they did for me, because I changed the type of meetings I went to at a point, and it completely changed and added something to my whole recovery. So I don't mean in the bad way when I talk about that,
Right.
but Cleveland AA, it's like going home and having a home cooked meal. You know, I mean, there's certain things. My mom makes the best fucking macaroni salad on the planet, and I don't eat any other macaroni salad. I won't, you know, because I don't like it. I despise peas. She puts peas in there. I eat them like it's my last fucking meal because it's what I like it. But that's how Cleveland AA is to me. When I go back there and go to meetings there, I look at Cleveland as going home, being involved, being all just, I don't know, like smothered in a great way by everything that is, you know, what we call recovery. So there's just a difference to it. But you know, I value the opportunity to go anywhere. But Cleveland's my home in many, many, many ways.
Right.
So as I'm again looking at an hour, we're in an hour 4 again there, buddy.
Yeah, we are.
Shit, I barely even know what we talked about. That's not true. So what's funny is, and I'm going to tell one of my secrets here. The hardest part about doing this main part of the episode for the podcast is easy. All I got to do, I cut off the beginning part of when Mike and I spend a minute or 30 seconds, whatever is, I cut that. And I don't edit anything else. So everything that you guys are hearing, and the reason that parts of it sound like shit is because we keep it all in. And if you hear an interruption or us talking over each other or whatever, I'm not taking the time to do it because he and I decided to start with, we're not going to do that. We're not going to put, you know, we're not going to put lipstick on a pig. It is what it is.
That's right. Live to tape, as they used to say.
You said live what? And that cut out. I want to hear it.
Live to tape.
There you go. Okay.
Right.
But the hardest part of just getting the initial episode out is the description, because I always want to put a little description in there. And even if I make notes, I can't remember what order. So today, and I got smart. It only took me 13 episodes, but I got smart. I numbered things as we were talking about them and made little notes. So hopefully it'll make my life easier getting the description set up. So that was a little bit more behind the scenes of what happens here at SoberNotMature. Yeah. All right, man. I think unless you got anything else, any wrap ups from what we talked about, there's a couple of items that I still have notes on here for next week, and I do want to talk about the different meetings. But I mean, I've got everything that I think I got on my mind, but and I think I know your answer. But anything else?
No, that's it, man. You know, I think you'll just have to tune in and hear more of our rambling thoughts.
Exactly. So it's your turn, though, my friend.
All right, everybody. Well, thanks for listening to another episode of Sober Not Mature. You know, be good this week, man. Don't pick up, man. If you do, you're just going to be hurting the people that you say you love. And one more thing, fuck off.
As always, it's a pleasure, Mike. I will obviously we'll talk again next week, and I love you, brother.
Love you too. Have a good night, everybody.
All right, man. Bye.
Bye.
As always, thank you for listening to another episode of Sober Not Mature. To access all of our content and interact with us, please visit our website, SoberNotMature.com. Thank you again for listening, and we will talk to you soon.